Welcome to Honest Tarot Deck Reviews. I'm Carly from Soundsight Studios in Austin, Texas. Today we're talking about the Psychic Tarot Oracle deck. And yes, we are absolutely going to talk about that title. Also, we'll go through the background of the creator and the artist, see what the artwork looks like, I'll introduce you to my favorite cards, and ultimately we'll assess if this is the right deck for you. Let's go! This deck was created by John Holland and published by Hay House in 2009. John is a best-selling author who describes himself as a psychic medium. He teaches workshops worldwide to help other people learn how to channel their mediumship abilities. He's been featured on the History Channel, A&E, and Unsolved Mysteries. It takes a village to make a tarot deck, and John Holland had two co-creators. The paintings on the front of each card are by John Matson, and the paintings on the back are by Van Doorn-Hinnant. John's goal with this deck is to impart techniques he practices himself and teaches in his workshops. John says, in this deck you'll find beautifully illustrated cards that will help you build a bridge between your psychic intuition and the age-old knowledge and meanings of the tarot. There are only 68 cards in this deck. Why is that? Well, each suit only has 9 cards instead of the standard 10, and all 16 court cards are removed. In their place, you'll find 7 chakra cards. This can be great for a new reader who is intimidated by working with court cards. But as a tarot teacher, I would remind any blossoming tarot students that the only way we get better at a skill is through practice. You'll notice how colorful the borders of these cards are. That denotes the suit. The wands are purple, the pentacles are red, the swords are blue, and the cups are green. Major arcana cards are all black. Notice the labels on the bottom of each card. This card is technically the Ace of Pentacles, but it's labeled Prosperity Begins. It makes this deck very accessible for beginner readers because it's like a tarot deck with training wheels. The 166-page booklet is very helpful. In it, John explains his personal philosophy about the spiritual meaning of numbers, colors, and the structure of the deck. As a reader, I can tell he's passionate about teaching and offering students tools to find guidance in tarot cards. The box is simple and reliable. The top easily slides off the bottom, and it's thanks to one unique design asset. It's this little cutout. I know you would think every deck would do this, but they don't. And it makes all the difference when you're trying to elegantly get your cards out while speaking with a client or reading at a big event. Let's check out the big 3 we compare across every deck. We're starting with the 3 of Cups. The painting is effervescent. I feel uplifted when I look at it. When I'm surrounded by friends who are supportive, loving, and fun, I feel bubbly and light, just as this card depicts. Our second card is the Star. Have a look at the light in the character's hands. You'll notice the shape of a human. I know it's a little bit odd, but I kind of like it. John Holland stated he wasn't trying to duplicate traditional tarot imagery. He did a good job here because he did maintain the core meaning of the card, but he broadened the ability to interpret this card. I started using this deck about 7 years ago, and for the first 5 of those years, I consistently confused the Sun card with the Star card. I thought it was weird how often the Sun card popped up in a reading. Anyway, now I have it all straightened out. But that confusion is something to keep in mind for newer readers. Our third card is the Death card. You'll notice that it's labeled Transformation. It features a woman who's pushing a gray face away while butterfly wings expand behind her. This is a wonderful multi-layered card. It really focuses on the meaning of transformation that the Death card represents rather than making it feel like an ending. I would give it 10 out of 10. I think it's really well done. The highlight card is the 9 of Wands. It's labeled Spiritual Strength, and you'll notice it has a monk in the front, and behind him is a version of himself stronger, taller, and bigger. So strong it's even pushing the roof off the building. This has nothing to do with traditional tarot meanings of this card, but I'm actually not mad. I appreciate that John Holland injected his personal philosophy about living a spiritual life and what that means. This is the type of personal flavor that I look for when I'm buying a different tarot deck. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to get anything other than my original. Let's have a look at our 5 categories to see if this is the deck you've been waiting for. Is it queer friendly? Not that I can see. It is certainly not a theme that was intentionally integrated into this deck. Is it racially diverse? No. Most of the characters are white. While there is some representation of other ethnicities, it's not a significant number, and it certainly wasn't a theme for the deck. Are people with disabilities represented? No. If that's important to you in a tarot deck, you'll want to keep looking. Is there a diverse range of body shapes? No. Pretty much everyone is fit, young, and trim, but that's not always a bad thing. Is there a balance of gender in the deck or gender expression? No. It's mostly men, and even with that, it's primarily cisgender representation. Let's compare this to a traditional deck that serves as a good baseline. How closely is the artwork aligned to the Rider-Waite-Smith? 1 out of 5. Come on, they took out all the court cards. Yeah, they changed some of the images, but they took out all the court cards. Definitely 1 out of 5. How closely do the meanings match the Rider-Waite-Smith? 2 out of 5. Come on, they added 7 totally new cards that weren't in the original deck. Those are the 7 chakra cards, and you even saw in the 9 of Wands that the meaning was very different than the original. It's still good, but it's pretty different. Let's talk about the tone of the deck. If 1 is very harsh and 5 is very gentle, I would place this deck at a 3. The Death card does a wonderful job of communicating the message of the card without getting really dark. But the Sword cards are kind of a different story. For instance, check out the 7 of Swords. It's labeled Deception and Envy. It's really hard to get past that label, even though there are a lot of different meanings to this card, and it's going to apply with different nuances depending on the context of the situation. So if you're a beginner reader and this card appears, it's going to be challenging to see this in a neutral way. If you're a reader working with a client that isn't fluent in the language of tarot, it'll be hard for the client to get past that phrase. Therefore, I'm going to say those Sword cards are pretty harsh, and that's why we're not getting up past a 3. Does the creator have experience with the subject matter? Yes. John has been in the field for decades, so this is a very well-informed offering to readers. Would I use this deck? Of course. This is one of my go-to, gotta grab, gotta have, bring with me to every event type of decks. I also bring this to my tarot classes for students to use. It gives them a really good burst of momentum if they've been struggling with reading. Here are 3 things I love about the deck. First of all, the gold leaf on the edges is beautiful. Every time I bring it out at an event, somebody makes a comment. Secondly, the chakra cards are surprisingly on point. Every time they come up, they are in reference to a dynamic that adds a lot to the conversation. Lastly, the Roman numerals have been switched out for Arabic numerals. People gain a lot of understanding when they see numbers. Numbers are really relevant to people, but they can't always read Roman numerals. And so this is another change that makes the deck a little more accessible to the everyday person. When it comes to the feel of the cards, you'll notice they're a little oversized. It can be a little bit tough to work with at first, but you'll get the hang of it. The cardstock is on the thinner side, and that helps with maneuverability. The colors are generally warm, and each card glows. The amount of light in each card makes them look luminescent. These cards are very glossy. It's beautiful, but it does make it a little hard to capture your card on film. So if taking photographs of your cards are really important to you, that could be a drawback. The card backs are beautiful. I find this image mesmerizing. You cannot tell the top from the bottom, making this deck a great option if you like to use reversals. Everyone should have this deck. I recommend it for beginners and experienced readers. I described it earlier as a deck with training wheels. Well, it really helped me when I was learning about the cards, and I still recommend it for every one of my students. Something about these images is very comforting. Even though the images deviate from traditional symbols of tarot, the cards always come alive for me when I'm doing a reading with them. This is a go-to deck when I'm having a bad day, or if I'm working with a client and I want to make sure this reading really lands for them. I love this tarot deck. If you've used this deck before, tell me what you think about it. Make a comment below. If you want to get this deck, I'll ensure there's a link pinned in the description box below. Please follow me on my socials to stay in touch, and make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more tarot content like this. Happy reading!